So we've actually come a long way in FleetMS version 2, and so today we are going to be talking about, let me show you, it should be number 39, In-Page CRUD operation. So In-Page CRUD. So let me kind of shift this to this place. Let me just highlight this and then take out this. Now the question now is, what is In-Page CRUD? Let me take out this. In-Page CRUD allows you to perform CRUD operation, insert, update, and delete in the same page. You don't need to navigate away from the page, and you don't also need to display a modal pop-up. So the best way to learn about it is to see how it works. So I've done an example here. So if I go to VehicleTypes now, and I want to add a new vehicle, for instance, I add, for instance, a new vehicle, let's say bus, for instance, bus. And I save, and you can see it saves right in the same page. And if I want to edit, I simply select it and make some changes. Let me just call it big vehicle, and I click on save, and it updates right in the same page. So that's what I call in-page CRUD operation. It's very important you know it, because it saves a lot of time. Because everything that we normally do using 4 different pages for multi-page CRUD operation, we can now do it in a single page. And another benefit of this is very convenient. That means that you don't have to write so much code, but you need to write a little bit of JavaScript. And it's necessary, when you have very few fields, let's say 2 or 3 fields in a form, in-page CRUD operation is the way to go. So let's go do it now. This one I already did in a different place. So the first thing we want to do is to set up this table and the form that you can do by yourself. So I'm not gonna spend time doing it. So let's go back to the application where we are working with. So this is where we are. Okay, joining for the first time, please remember to subscribe to my channel. If you have challenges following this class, because this class you're going to learn how to build the application from beginning to end, covering all the technologies you need to know. So please subscribe and also leave me a comment if you have challenges. So if I come to, for instance, Fleet Home and go to VehicleTypes, we don't have nothing. This is just a template for countries. So we are going to remove this template and use in-page CRUD operation. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to the template and then adjust this form to be able to have 2 fields on top, just like I showed you. So this will be vehicle types. So let me just go to fleet down here, and we don't have nothing. So let me create a new HTML page. I'm going to call it vehicle types. Okay, so these are in-page CRUD operation page. And as you know, we are going to add the layout template. This time I'm going to simply copy and paste because I already have it somewhere, and then we are going to talk about it. Okay, so this is basically the template here, okay? So here we have a section here, this form section here. I'm going to enlarge it a little bit. So this is the form here, from here to here, is a form for submitting to the database, okay? So this is where you enter the description and details and then submit. And now this is the button for submit, and this is the button for reset, as I showed you. I don't know if it's still open. I don't think it's still open. Okay, and then we have this table displayed under the form right here. So you can have the panel body here displaying the table, exactly the same table we've been working with before. All right, so the next thing I want to let you know is that the description and the details, you need to give them the names, description, and details. So what's going to happen now is that this form is a normal form, just that it has 2 fields. So once we enter, it's going to enter data, it's going to submit to the normal place, which is fleet vehicle types. It's going to submit, post the item there. Once it posts the item there, what is going to happen is that we are going to return a redirect to the same page. So now, why do we need some JavaScript? We need some JavaScript because when we want to make an edit, when we click on a button on the table, we want to transfer the item that is selected onto the form. So let me see if I still have it open so that I can just show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so let me go to the completed application so I show you what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to copy this and just paste it here, and 80, I think. Okay, so this is a complete application where we are going. Go to Fleet Home and go to Vehicle Type. Okay, now we need JavaScript so that when we select an item from here, it is displayed on the text box. So when we select an item, it selects the item and displays the detail on the text box. That is why we will need JavaScript. Outside that, we don't need JavaScript. Submission of the form, we don't need JavaScript. But to be able to edit selected item, we need JavaScript. So let's look at how the JavaScript looks like, okay? So permit me to kind of, okay, yeah. So let's look at this JavaScript. It's quite very easy to understand. First, you want to see that in the table we have a number of buttons. We have this one that says display. We have this sort size, but I want you to pay attention to this place. Now here is saying that when you have the ID, this button has an ID display, and the href is pointing to the URL of the getById method of this item that is selected. So you have fleet vehicle type / the ID of selected. So once you click on this button, you select an item, it's going to make a REST request and returns the item to us. How do we make this request? We are going to use JavaScript to actually make this request. So this is where the whole thing is happening. So when we have, or already you know about the script, you know about document already, you know about table display. When we click on the item on the table, we are going to get the href of that item and make a GET request. You can see GET request here, and it's going to return the vehicle type that has the ID that was selected. And this vehicle type, we are going to set the ID of the text box. The text box ID has the name, the ID. Sorry, let me not confuse you. So we are going to set the ID, the text of the text box. So let's just go up a little bit, if you understand what I'm saying. So we have this input here. We have the name is ID here, right? The name is ID, and the text, the ID is txt ID. So when we say txt ID.value, we are setting the value of that ID. Okay, well, the same thing applies here. If you say txt description.value, we are setting the value, and that's what we are actually doing here. So you are setting the value of those three text boxes, the ID, description, and details, with the object that is returned from the API call to the REST API backend, and we set the ID here. So what is happening here, when we click on a button, we select an item, we're going to make a REST API call to select the item and display it on the text box. That's all we need to do. Every other thing is something you know. Then when you click on submit, it goes to the back end and then submit it and redirect to the same page, more or less, refresh it to the same page. So what you can take a look at now should be the controller method. So if I go to the controller for vehicle type, so if we go vehicle type controller, you see we have vehicle type controller here. So when we go to the ID here, we have find by ID, and when we do a post request, it redirects to the same ID. So actually, if I run this application, we are not going to have anything much different than what you have seen before. So it's basically our in-page CRUD operation that we've been able to set up now. So what I can do now is, let's just look at where we are in our application. So if I go to port 8081 and go to Fleet Home, of course we've not set up vehicles, these are just templates. If I now go to vehicle types, 1 second. Okay, so vehicle types is not routed correctly. So I'm going to go to the home, the fleet home, because in fleet home we only have our vehicle types. So if I go to vehicle types here, it should be down here. So it's going to be to fleets, second, to fleet / vehicle types, which should be this one. Okay, so if I relaunch this application, we should be able to go to vehicle types when we click on vehicle types on the fleet page. So coming back here, I'm going to refresh. Now we've not done all these ones. These are all templates, but feel free to do them because I'm not going to be doing everything with you. Once I get to some extent, I see you've understood it, I can actually do it off camera, and then we are going to talk about something more important. So if I go to vehicle types, now we have the in-page CRUD operations page, and if I select, you see it selects, and you can actually edit and save, and everything works perfectly well. So I'm going to be stopping here. We can actually check where we are currently. I think we've made some progress. So the next part, as I mentioned, we are going to be attaching Angular UI to this application. Now we are going to just do it briefly. We are not going to go right into Angular. And later we now talk about form validation. I would like to thank you for viewing. Please remember to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on my social network profile, be it GitHub or Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn. Please follow me and then let me know if you need any support, and I'm going to be there for you. I remain Kind the Tech Pro, and I'm always there for you.